That all disappeared in the future. That was rather strange completely. And then carrying on about Lotus cars, we had a young bachelor Australian guy named Warren King, and he and I used to practice sailing backwards round the course on the Central Lagoon midweek because he had got a bit of spare time. But then when Warren left the club and moved up to Wyndham, where Lotus cars had relocated to from Cheshunt, and he actually took over Graham Arnold's job as finance director of Lotus at Wyndham.
Oh, right.
In fact, when we had our championships there one year at, I think it was at Wroxham, might have been Hickling, I don't remember exactly, but Warren arrived in a car and we recorded a few old times. And he had moth number 437 and it was yellow, so I always remember him. So anyway, we're losing tracks here. We go back now to the championships at Dover, and the one that Richard Elliott. My first one, of course, was the first one at Wroxham that John Chaundy won. So John completed the boat and he hadn't got a sail for it. So there was a lad in Medley who'd got a brand new sail, and he'd got it from Lucas. Lucas Sails at Portsmouth are probably almost the oldest sailmaker in the country. I'm sure they used to go back to the old fully rig shipped make sails. But they made this moth sail for him, and I always remember because the half height measurement was 66 inches. And this sail measured 65.5 across the middle. It was much bigger, much fuller than anything else. And the lad, every time he went out in it, he used to curse because he used to capsize with it. So John bought it from him for about 25 quid, something like that. And he took it to Wroxham with his down-to-weight boat. And he won not only the two first practice races, but he won every one of the remaining 5 championship races. And then on the Saturday morning we were invited, we were hanging around, to join in with the Wroxham crowd for their lunchtime race, and John took his girlfriend out with him and he still won in twit. Anyway, before we leave the old crowd, I must mention about Ted Hicks and Medley, because Ted and his wife had a private school at Oxford, but he became friendly, no doubt to his school connections, to a man called Ron Amy. And Ron Amy owned Amy Roadstones Sand and Gravel Company, and I think he and his wife took Ron out a few times, and he was quite impressed with Ted's knowledge. He was a particularly good navigator. And eventually, I suppose Ron Amy talked him into it, but they sold the school, and he and his wife became professional skippers for Ron Amy's racing yachts, and at that time he was running a stable of, I believe, about 3 ocean racing boats. And the best one of all, what he considered the fastest one, was called Norema. N-O-R, Norema, which is Ron Amy spelled backwards. And of course, in 1972 it was, I'm pretty sure, because I can remember Rodney Patterson winning the gold medal in the Olympics in the Flying Dutchman at Kiel, and he'd won it 4 years earlier as well. And incidentally, one of Patterson crews on a casual basis, but it was a good crew for Patterson, was Mike Young, who used to sail at the Royal Cinque Ports Yacht Club, and he was about 6'4", and his boat was 351, and it was called Zig, ZYG. And I remember racing with him in Dover Harbour, and he was astounded to think that me, who's about 8 stone 10 and 5'7" or so, could keep up with him, you know, in the mud. I said, well, you know, if you've ridden a bike for 100 miles in the pouring rain, it's a piece of cake. Oh dear. Yeah. So anyway, Ted, of course, then took part in a race in the States, and the blue ribbon of the American racing scene, I believe in those days, was the Newport, Rhode Island to Bermuda race. And Ted became the first British skipper of a British yacht ever to win this race in, I believe it's 80 or 90 year history. So the RY had 2 candidates for Yachtsman of the Year. One was Rodney Patterson, and the other was Ted Hicks, and it was awarded to Ted. Yeah. Not bad for a moth sailor. Yeah, very good. I'm pleased to be able to record that, really, because things get lost in the
well, you've only got to look in the handbook and the stories there are about.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a little bit of the earlier history, and I remember Charlie Reeves, a mad as a hatter, his work. I remember him riding for the Cam Open meetings, and quite often seemed to be the custom there, because I had it in May. It used to blow the whole boots, you know. And he arrived in his moth with a brand new Sparlight mast, tying it behind his E-type. And he stuck the mast up and went out, and the race hadn't even started. And he just went up the river a few yards, a gust came and the mast broke, and inside no time the boat was packed up and he'd gone home again in his E-type. Ah dear, the stories you remember. Anyway, right, what did you find out about the sequence?
I haven't yet.
Oh, of course, I was banging on the post. Right, so we've got Dover, Wroxham, and then I believe Dover again.
There's a mention in here about I forget which name it was, that he turned up with a motorcycle combination and towed 2 boats behind it.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, there are many stories by all the moth sailors through the years, I'm sure. Anyway, the next championships, I believe, pretty sure, was at Wroxham. You find the Brent Cup again?
Yeah.
Perhaps you should keep a bookmark in there all the time, Stuart. We need it all the time.
Right. Now there's Zig.
65.
Well, Janet Gullen in 65, Fundy, and 66, Mike Young, 351 Zig.
Yeah, that's Zig, yeah. Have a look. It's a venue, you see. Right, Charlie won in there, sure, that's right. And then Richard Elliott, twice. There we go. Wroxham. So 62, 63 he won as well. So at Dover Harbour followed Wroxham. So at Dover Harbour it was quite a windy week, and John, they'd won all the races at keep that place, because the next one I can comment on.
Yeah.
You put a bookmark in it or some such thing.
Okay.
So John was fairly well placed to finish in the first few, but it was very, very windy. And there were 2 races on the final day. I can't see myself. Do I need to look at it?
You don't have to.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Oh, okay. 2 races on the final day. In the morning, the wind was really howling, and we went down on the shingle there because all the boats were launched down the shingle. In fact, if the wind was a reach either way, you could really put your main up and sail it down the shingle and straight in the water, because they were like roller bearings. And when you landed, you had to ram your boat up the gravel and jump out quick and wait for the next wave, and virtually haul the boat with the wave up the shingle, then race up